talking about the VA experience that I've had, the specific experience with agency VA. I think it was about 4 years ago that I went down this journey of saying, okay, which route do I go? And I've heard a lot about VAs and a lot of other industries, and it kind of felt like our insurance industry was a little bit far behind. Did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, had some friends with agency VA that I was close with and trusted them. And so reached out to them. It was my first experience with it. It was a home run on the first one. And I was not expecting that. Basically, they did an interview, went through kind of exactly asking me all the right questions of kind of what I was looking for. And I think that's the first thing I would give you as advice. I see a lot of folks make the mistake of trying to bring them on before you're ready and you have the structure in place. Just like any other team member, there's no difference, right? So making sure you have a structured plan and you have 3 or 4 specific tasks that you want them to do. And they matched us with a wonderful individual. I can't say enough good things about him. One of the traits that we look for in every team member, whether it be a VA or not, is the feeling of gratefulness. And I think that's a really important trait. And every person that I've experienced with agency VA has that grateful mentality. And I think that's just a better way to go through life and seeing things for the positive side of it. We opted to just say, hey, we'll train them our way. And we had to kind of build that out a little bit on how we were going to train them. But the talent level was way beyond what I thought we were going to receive. Just from the intellect, like the cognitive that we got, I was like, oh my gosh, it blew me away. And I was a little concerned early on about the conversational, like being on the phone, accents completely blew me away with the tone and the way that he was on the phone and intellect. And initially, like we were able to build out our whole process. Now we just did the numbers and we have 25,000 transactions in 2023 that were done by VAs. So he was the first person to kind of help us build that out, absolutely crush the procedure. And what we have them doing is what we call post bind. Everything that happens at the close of a transaction, our team is sending a detailed checklist to exactly what needs to be done. And that VA is setting up the policy in AMS, updating the CRM, and putting the application through DocuSign. What I love about that is number one, it takes the administrative side off of the sales agent so they can sell more. But what it also does is it streamlines proper procedure and process. And if something is wrong, we can go to one person to fix it. And that is huge when you're doing volume and you're trying to scale a business to make sure that you are absolutely accurately entering data and doing it the same way where there's consistency. So it allowed us to do that. And we started teaching them how to do our faxing and how to upload documents and do attached documents. And we built that system out. Then we added another VA to scale. And then we took Raphael and made him a team lead. And we promoted him. He was basically helping us teach the others as they came on and building out the process and the system. And then we taught them also how to answer the phones, which was huge. Not that they were answering the phones all the time, but they were kind of our backup to answer phones. So they kept the skill set and they did it during peak times like lunch. And the hours are slightly different because they're based out of Puerto Rico for this one. And so they were able to answer the phones between 5 and 6 when customers get off of work, and we made sure that we had that coverage. It was cool to have that skill set. And then it was kind of more of a development thing where they start to answer the phones and they kind of learn how to support and help in other ways. Overall, it's a great source of talent. Agency VA has got great technology where you get, a daily report that shows exactly what they were doing, their activity and their system. They've got good leaders. They've got good systems. It really did help us to build all those processes out. And one of the things that we kind of modified a little bit too was that agency VA had a checklist, and we just modified a little bit to specifically what the tasks were that we were doing. And so every day at the end of the day, you get a report that says, this is what was accomplished, this is what's still pending, and this is what I need training on. And it really gave us a snapshot of really kind of where they were. And I think another really cool trick or tip is make sure you assign your VA something to do when they're caught up. So what that does is it's not an urgent activity, but it allows you to know kind of where the capacity is and how much free time do they have, or when are they getting to it. So for example, we had Raphael do our cancellation report. So it wasn't urgent. It was things that were canceling that we wanted to follow up and investigate. And we knew based on what his workload was that he would do that when everything else was caught up. And we could tell kind of again from a capacity standpoint, because I think that's one of the fears that a lot of people have is are they efficient and effective and are they at full capacity, when they're not there in the office, right? And so when you get that end of day report and you can look at the data that shows the number of activities and what they're accomplishing and what it's allowed us to do and scale. And I will tell you that prior to using VAs, we were doing about $5 million in new green business. And now we're doing about $12 million in new green business. So if you think about our ability to scale, now we've probably added a couple of sales folks, but I think it's really a huge testament for the efficiency gain and the ability to scale sales growth around that VA team. And they're a part of everything that we do. They go to our weekly meetings. They participate in every way, just like a regular team member. And I built a new structure as well on the pathway for team members to come on board with us. And the VAs they're a part of that, right? And so it's been an incredible experience. 2 years ago we put a goal in front of our team that said if you build a certain amount of relationships, and we built a process around building those relationships. And for us, a relationship was a center of influence, a realtor or a lender. If we created 100 new relationships, we were going to take everyone to Puerto Rico. And the reason we chose Puerto Rico is because that's where our agency VA was, and we were going to visit him. That was kind of the main driver. And I got to tell you, like the video of us, our team, for the first time meeting our VA in Puerto Rico will make just about anybody cry. I mean, the amount of energy and the way that my team reacted to seeing him should have been in a movie probably. So, and it speaks to the testament of like building that culture together and the quality of his temperament and personality that everyone absolutely loved him. Again, it's helped us change our business. I would just make sure that you have a structure, you have a system in place, and you have a process to train them. We actually spend a good amount of time. It's about 6 or 8 weeks of training that we give them. But what we do, though, is another tip on this is we teach them one thing a week. In that first week, that's all we teach them. So the first thing we might teach is, for example, how to attach documents to the system. So how to look up a client and attach it in the system. So they shadow, then we shadow them, and then we have somebody meet with them to make sure that they have the process dialed in and correct. And then the next week, we teach them something else, and then we assign them the independent work. So in that second week, they know how to add value by attaching those documents while we teach them, for example, the post-bind process. And we'll do that for 2 weeks until they master it and they're absolute pro at it. They have enough reps and enough like validation to know that they're very good at it. And then we teach them something else. And then they have more independent work because they now know how to do post-bind and attaching. And then we'll teach them how to answer the phones and so on and so forth. And so there's a repetition about it. And everyone wants to do a great job. You just got to make sure you're spending the time with them to make sure that they can be successful, just like you would any other team member. So having an intentional plan, having an intentional process of exactly what they're going to do, and have the right partner alongside with you that can source great talent and have good systems to make sure that you can execute with it.